Hey, it's Stu Peters and Richard Leonard for Law Dog Coffee Company. Welcome to Law Dog Coffee Company. Some heroes wear capes, ours wear a badge. Every single purchase you make goes to support law enforcement. So if you love the cops, if you support law enforcement, if you don't agree with defunding the police, if you want to make sure that they have good equipment, if you want to take care of law enforcement families, this is the only coffee that you want to drink. And not only that, their purpose is great, but the coffee is even better. You can sign up online very easily for freshly roasted specialty coffee to your door. You can choose weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly deliveries. Gifts and apparel also available. Law Dog Coffee Company, located at lawdogcoffee.com. Lawdogcoffee.com. That's lawdogcoffee.com. Use the promo code PCRadio for 10% off every purchase.
With a domestic population of 350 million and 7.8 billion worldwide, we thank the 12 of you that listen to this garbage.
It's garbage, and I'll tell you why.
The Patriotically Correct Radio Show.
Eat me.
With Stu and Rich. Worldwide at thepcradioshow.com.
And over there at the... Jesus, already? Bless you. Over there at thepcradioshow.com, make sure that you check out the new store. All kinds of swag. It's absolutely incredible. And if you're a patriot, only patriots are welcome in that store. Welcome to Patriotically Correct Radio. My name is Stu. That's Richard. You see CC Davis on the screen, and we're going to get to her momentarily. But before we do, yesterday on this program, we featured a call-in from Will Stoff. He's an extremely successful voice actor and Donald Trump impersonator. Having him on was a blast. I enjoyed relaxing and having a laugh in the midst of all the serious scandals, corruption, overt psychological warfare from social media tech giants, a stolen election, and the hijacking of America. I actually paid him to be here, and due to his level of success, he's not cheap. There was a massive negative response to Stoff's appearance on this show, and my DMs went nuts as I was berated by listeners who felt they'd been duped and misled. The position of the concerned was that they come here relying on our program to always give them the truth and facts, and I appreciate that position, I do. But here's my position. I choose to do this radio program. Nobody held a gun to my head. I do it because I'm passionate about my support for the police, my support of the president, the freedom of Americans, and the future of my kids. Along with this show comes a huge commitment and a good deal of sacrifice. The time that I spend away from my kids, researching statistics, investigating and digging beyond the mainstream media headlines, and the stress and overwhelming feeling of imminent doom that looms over this country can be a bit overwhelming at times. It can literally keep a guy up at night. But it's my choice to do this every day, and I'm not here to bitch. But don't get it twisted, I'm also not here to apologize, and I won't. What I will say is that I appreciate each and every listener, I really do. Every single person that tunes into this show matters to me and matters to Richard. I don't take our immediate success for granted, and the larger the numbers get, the more likely we are to fall under scrutiny because someone is always going to have an issue with something. I learned a lesson yesterday. I learned a lesson about this thing we do, and as a result of that experience, I may change the way I go about things in the future, but I absolutely will not apologize for taking a selfish moment to unwind and have a laugh. I did, however, feel the need to address your concerns because I genuinely care about you. We've done that now, and that's that. Richard, I had a conversation last night with a very well-connected former high-ranking intelligence agent that painted a very ugly picture for the future of America. I began that conversation with an upbeat and positive attitude, as you know, and by the time I hung up, I was once again extremely concerned, and for a moment, I allowed myself to slip into a really dark and negative place. This person was explaining their predictions relating to how this is all going to play out, and his prediction is that Trump is going to have no other choice but to walk away. It's a scary thought. I began thinking about the prospect of a Joe Biden presidency and how everyone in that administration, and I mean everyone in that cabinet, is compromised. They're compromised by deals they've made with the devil to secure the power and control they've been so ferociously chasing. The very control and compliance that Donald Trump has been single-handedly fighting for the last 4 years can literally be undone. And if Georgia sinks and falls to Democratic control, legislation can quickly be signed into law, making it nearly impossible for anyone to clean it up later. If you think the assault on Amendment 1 is in plain sight now, you just wait. The carefully planned dismantling of this Constitution will be fast-tracked, and America will be irreparably changed forever. Nationwide lockdowns will be immediately enforced despite the science. There's the people that pointed at Trump, remember them, accused him of ignoring health officials about combating the China virus, but they will ignore the top health experts and force you to take your kids out of school, cancel your surgeries that you've been waiting for, prevent you from going to see your elderly mother in her independent living facility, cancel sporting events and holiday gatherings, and begin the cold, dark winter that Biden promised the country during the last presidential debate. Riots will begin immediately if there is any resistance from the administration to bow down and satisfy a list of demands from Black Lives Matter Incorporated. Your cities will burn again, police response will be non-existent, blood will be shed, and people will die if they don't agree to hand over their souls and repent for their whiteness or agree to reparations for the actions of our ancestors over 400 years ago. If you haven't noticed, ammunition and firearms, they're hard to come by. Shelves have been emptied at gun shops, and restocking them has become nearly impossible due to the anticipation of a full-on assault of Amendment 2. If you can't communicate with one another due to censoring and silencing, and if you're threatened with the criminal justice system for not locking yourselves in your homes, and if you can't protect yourself against a tyrannical government in the absence of the means to fight back, we're done. That's it. Small businesses will be completely gone within just weeks after being forced to close, while huge corporations are left open as a thank you, while a wink and a nod are sent in the direction of the monster-sized executives that contributed financially, making the socialist takeover a possibility. Those that try to hang on will burn through their life savings and then ultimately be crushed with the back-breaking taxes they'll be forced to pay after radical tyrants reverse the breaks and credits signed into law by Trump. Borders will cease to exist as criminals and terrorists are able to freely pour into our country with the intent to bring harm to those of us patriots that remain willing to fight for our children. And the walls of protection will be dismantled while the elite stay protected by law enforcement. And damned, the gates and walls will live to be prevalent in their neighborhoods. They'll live behind them with no problem, and all the money and power that they've ever had and that they've never had to sacrifice while we gave up everything. Those who used to earn a decent living while they minded their own business and went to work every day, those that used to provide to their local economy by ordering takeout several times a week, like you and I, Richard, we will be forced into foreclosure, pushed into government-subsidized food lines, and will fall to our knees looking up to our new masters, begging for a hand to keep our kids with food, shelter, and the opportunity just to live. Our support for Donald Trump and the love of our once free country will land us on a list. We talked about this last night. Already being compiled by the likes of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who promises all of us that we will be going to Trump re-education camps. Imagine that. Does that sound familiar? We'll be told that our American pride is racist and maybe even criminal, as we're allowed to be released with the exchange of our independent and critical thinking, our ideas, or any ambition we have left to become self-made success stories. These are the thoughts of me, the thoughts of millions of Americans, including everyone the radicals told you hated Trump, and the media echoed their sentiment. The Democrats and mainstream media news outlets told you that Trump was a racist and that black people and immigrants were relying on your vote for an opportunity to assimilate and finally be accepted as we eradicate a system of hate in our country that we know doesn't exist, but we're forced to accept in order to remain socially accepted. Programs like this one will be eradicated completely, and those few pro-police conservative voices that remain will be snuffed out almost immediately. It's easy to get down. It's easy to accept defeat, CC and Richard. And if we should do so, how could we ever look ourselves in the mirror knowing we had a chance to fight for the future of our grandkids and chose to walk away from the fight? We can't. That's exactly what they expect us to do. They're relying on the success of that pressure and that narrative in order to enact their surgical assault on American freedoms. There are many with us that you may not know about. The 72 million strong army is blessed to have leaders in every single pocket, in every cut, in every hood, in every community across the nation, and we need to rise up right now and stick together to fight for the future we want. Here to talk with us about that fight, she's been leading a fight, is CC Davis. Davis is the state director for Blexit, Minnesota, and director of strategic communications for Stand For. She's an American conservative commentator and political activist who's a strong advocate for religious rights, American patriotism, and the overall exit of the Democratic Party. CC, you're smart, you're savvy, you're unapologetically conservative. You're committed to a long life pursuit, maintaining the founding principles and constructs of the American Constitution, and you believe that as a democratic republic, America's Judeo-Christian foundation is based in truth and that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are inalienable rights given to us by God and not by government. I agree. Cece, welcome to PC Radio. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Great having you guys. Thank you for having me. This is fantastic.
We cannot give up hope. Not now. Do you agree?
Absolutely. So this is a country worth fighting for. This is absolutely worth dying for. I say all the time, people are dying to get here, but no one's dying to get out, right? No one's dying to leave America. We are absolutely unique and we are special. This is an exceptional country. We serve an exceptional God. It's absolutely worth fighting and dying for. We cannot give up hope.
I agree. So what do we do?
Well said.
Well, you know what? I think you said it. Your opening was just that. You know what? We need to get bold again. Where is that boldness? Where is that actual patriotism? I think that, we've gotten to a point where we've become so complacent and we just think that the other guy is going to do it. And at this point, we can't afford to do that. Everyone needs to suit up and boot up. Okay. And then we just need to, if we have to, hey, take it to the streets. And I'm not saying we're about getting out there and warring, but what I am saying is that you have to decide what's important to you. And for me right now, this country is important to me. My right to celebrate my God and to fellowship with fellow Christians is important to me. The Constitution is important to me. Feeling safe and law and order is important to me. Being able to see you and socialize. I have a 94-year-old father-in-law. I haven't seen him in 4.5 months. That's important to me. He's important to me. My future, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, they're important to me. And so I will absolutely fight for it. I will not live under socialism and communism. I absolutely will not. I was born free. I will die free.
You're a black woman, right? I mean, there's no secret. Hold on, Richard, just real quick. I promise you're in.
Well, I can't tell. Are you a black woman?
Yeah, I was going to tell you guys about halfway through, but yeah, since he brought it up, yep.
You're a black woman. There's no doubt that you have received social pressure from your community, from the black community. There's no question that you've been called a traitor or other racist names. Yeah. You walked away from the Democratic Party, you were telling me prior to coming on the show, halfway through the Obama administration. And how have you dealt with that pressure?
So I've just decided that, who am I really trying to please? So I want to please God. I can't please everyone. You know what? The thinking, the monolithic thinking is why we are where we are. And especially with the Black community in particular. We've been played like pawns in a game. We've been absolutely used and manipulated and lied to. And it actually is a contributor to the overall state of the Black community. And so realizing that, hey, you know what? We need to do things differently. We need to think differently. And we need to really step back, give up our right to be offended. Okay, number one, give up your right to be offended. Amen. So that you can be objective and look at things and realize, hey, nothing is changing. And we need to find out about history, our real history here in America, and then get back to the original party, which is the Republican Party. Black people belonged to the Republican Party. This is our original party. Need to come back home.
I don't think anybody should belong to any party by default.
Right.
Richard.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I think Cece, you hit it right on the head. And Stu and I talk about it all the time when we talk about our work. That you got to pick a side, right? You have to pick are you going to left or right, right? I mean, some will say there's many options. There's 3 or 4 different ways you can go, and I don't think that that's true. So you have to pick a side and unequivocally support that side. And like you said, it's worth dying for.
Absolutely.
And I agree 100%. I mean, I wouldn't have brought my big behind overseas and fought for this country if I was on the fence about it. I don't know. Maybe I like being an American. I wouldn't have made the sacrifices I made had I been on the fence. And so I think that that's a super, super important point that we recognize and we validate that you have to pick a side. And I will say that I think that there's some people on the left that are reasonable, but they're overshadowed by the complete craziness of people like AOC and Bernie Sanders and things like that.
The party's been hijacked. It's been hijacked by radicals, and there's no more control. Biden doesn't have any control. Kamala Harris is going to be the next president of the United States should the unfortunate experience happen that Biden is granted this. And, here's the deal. After having conversations with a lot of people, CC, I've got hope. Okay, I've got hope that this thing goes to Congress. There's 37 states that are represented by Republican congressional representatives. Okay, they get the vote, and he's in. Amy Coney Barrett was swiftly confirmed by a Republican Senate that otherwise did absolutely nothing during the last 4 years and dragged their feet on literally everything the president was trying to get accomplished. They proved to us that they can actually do something swiftly, and did it by the confirmation of ACB, which was pivotal. And so if this thing goes to the Supreme Court, I think we win there as well. But I'm getting also in my ear a lot of people who are saying, Stu, give it up. This is over for the president. What do you think?
Weakness, which is why we're here right now. Weakness is why we chose Donald Trump, right? So weakness is what made me decide when I saw him slide down that escalator and said, that's the guy that we need. We need someone who is strong, who is unapologetic, who's absolutely courageous. He's an alpha male. He can make a decision. He will make a decision. And he's perfectly okay with being a party of one. I don't need a whole army behind me. But if you get behind me, you are on the winning side. You have to make a stance. You cannot be gray. This is no time for gray. This is just absolute fear. It's just fear. And we're seeing it on our side. And that's what's more disheartening than anything. Because I know what my Bible tells me, right? That as a Christian, I know that I'm the victor, but I need brave soldiers behind me. I need someone standing shoulder to shoulder with me who is bold and courageous, who understands what we're fighting for. Again, this is an absolutely exceptional nation, and we need to fight. It's absolute fear, and it's complete fear. And that's what's so disheartening to me more than anything is that our side, they're crying, they're tuck-tailing and run, and we cannot win that way. You absolutely cannot win with having fear. Absolutely
not. Let me play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
So what if? Let's do the what if game. What if we fight our tails off, and it ends up that Joe Biden gets inaugurated into office? I mean, I think that's something that we need to prepare for, just in case. What do we do next?
Well, what did they do for 4 years? They threw tantrums, they ranted, they raved, they knocked down. You know what? They just hear from us for the entire time. We fight and we continue to show them that we are no longer that silent majority that just sits along the sidelines and accept what's given to us, right? So we make noise the entire time. We make noise the entire time. We let them know that we, the people, have a voice, and we, the people, will continue to speak up and yell and shout and kick and scream and bite and fight and whatever we have to do to get it the way of the land of the people.
Well, I don't agree. And here's why I don't agree. I don't agree because we don't have a voice. They're taking it away. It's systematically happening. It's occurring. Look at Twitter. Look at Facebook. If you say anything that's pro-Trump, anti-Biden, anything pro-America, pro-freedom, anything that's not apologizing basically for America and racism and everything else that you want to throw into this big bucket of liberal radical ideals, you're silenced. You're shut down. Your account is completely canceled. So the voices that we have become, instead of being unified and heavy and big and grandiose, they become limited and small and separated and divided. And that's that's rule 101 to warfare. You beat somebody by taking out their communication, you divide them, and you take away their weapons. That's what they're doing. So I think that the plan, Richard, to answer your question, has to be a little bit more escalated than that. And I'm not suggesting or promoting violence, but systematically and historically in this country, the only way that our democracy has been able to remain intact is through violence and bloodshed. And that means that we've gone to places like Afghanistan and Iraq, and we've taken out the people who have tried to take down our democracy. It just so happens now that the takedown and the plan to destroy America is coming from right here. And we had a discussion about what if it comes to that, and what if these people, blah, blah. Well, there's 300 million people in this country. 72 million supposedly came out behind Trump. I would say the number's probably more like 85 or 90 million. So that would mean that there's about 200 million other people out here that don't feel that way. But that doesn't mean that they're all on the other side either. And I think that, like you alluded to yesterday, that if this thing does turn into something like that, it'll be short-lived. But Cece, if you want to talk about religion and the Bible, what your Bible tells you that this is going to happen. that there's going to be an unprecedented amount of violence, and then there will be a 5-year period of peace, and then boom, it'll all blow up and the rapture will be here. So with that being said, are we really approaching that? I mean, do you think that a voice is actually going to get it done? Because in a 4-year period of time, especially if these Democrats take Georgia and we have a Biden-Kamala Harris presidency, we have a democratically controlled Senate and a democratically controlled Congressional House of Representatives, America as we know it is done. That's
correct. And so let me agree with you 100%. So if you're asking me if we're ready or we will need to take it to the streets, a resounding yes. I know people who are prepared. I'm just saying that that's what we get. So we don't lay down, right? So, forgive me for saying this, but, I ain't no punk, right?
No, say it. Say it.
You know what I mean? So when I said, and I meant what I said, this country is worth dying for. It's worth fighting for. So we take it to the streets. Absolutely. I mean, we will be as diplomatic as we possibly can, but we decide, and I think that's already been decided, but we decide that we will not live as a socialist country. We will not live as a communist country. We are free. And so we fight for that freedom. If we have to take it to the streets, hey, that's what we have to do. It's inevitable.
The president is
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of taking a back seat here. The president is not out there. It's very uncharacteristic of President Donald Trump. We've not heard from him like I anticipated hearing from him. We also have not heard from anybody in the Republican Party, and we can speculate that that's because all of this stuff has been contrived and they have been complicit in the plan to take him down since he came down the escalator. Republicans are no better than Democrats, a lot of them, the majority of them. There are a few that have unapologetically stood with the president, and for them I appreciate their bravery, but the rest of them are cowering and running like little rats trying to save their own political careers and their own political lives. Do you think that his silence is calculated? I mean, there's been no move that the president has made in the last 5 years since he started campaigning to be the president of the United States that hasn't been 5 steps ahead of these dummies trying to take him down. I gotta believe that there is some sort of calculation, some sort of plan, something that's going on there, or is he just accepting defeat?
Absolutely. His silence is calculated. The last 5 years that he's been being attacked, he's been 2, 3, 4, 10 steps ahead. And I think that he's just kind of laying back in the cut and just waiting for his chance to come out and strike. And whatever the outcome may be, and like we talked about a couple days ago, even if he has to end up walking away from the White House, he's still going to be the leader of 72 million people, or however many, 272 million, 800 million people, however many people that choose to follow him and be in his corner, he's still going to influence them. He may not be a politician, he may not hold any office for a few years, but 2024 is only 4 years away.
Speaking of that leadership that he's going to maintain, Cece, I'm sure that you would agree that regardless whether Biden says he is the Democratic Party or not, the de facto leaders of that party are still the Obamas. And Michelle Obama had it was a very short statement, a couple of paragraphs that just came out within the last day or two, kind of quietly, but she said, look at what we did. We made the vote accessible. Okay, i.e., we cheated the vote. We made the vote accessible. We made it easier for people to mail in their votes. We made it easier to steal an election, essentially, is what she's saying. Yeah. Now with Georgia on the line, we really need to ramp this up, and we really need to make it very accessible for voting. Well, that tells us they're going to cheat in Georgia. We need to flood Georgia. I mean, we need to send patriots to Georgia. If you're in Georgia, around Georgia, or willing to go to Georgia, now is the time that you need to be there, because this thing needs to be watched extremely carefully. The balance of the government hangs in Georgia right now, and it's just absolutely unprecedentedly important, and they're going to try to steal it. They have pulled out every single stop in the last 4 years. They're not going to stop now.
That is correct. I think that I think what you said is just so charged and it's so perfect. It's right, spot on. Patriots need to go to Georgia. We need to make that voice heard. And then, you know what? I would just say to all patriots right now, you know what? Get prepared. I mean, you're about to be challenged into moving into some actions that you never thought you might had to take.
The unthinkable.
But that's what we're come down to. You guys, we cannot rationalize with people who want socialism and communism. There is no way. They've shown us that all summer. They've shown us this over for decades, and this has been a concerted plan in action. You cannot rationalize with them. You cannot be kind and diplomatic. So I'm telling you, for those of you who are watching who call yourself a patriot, get ready to show how patriotic you really are and move into some actions you never thought maybe you had to move into.
She's the director for Blexit, Minnesota, and a friend of PC Radio. Very brave and strong woman. Cece, these things always go way too fast. Do you promise that you'll come back again?
Absolutely. All you got to do is knock.
All right, perfect. We will. And I tried to knock for a while. I thought, God, does she just not like this show or what?
Oh, I love the show. I love the show.
Very tough woman to get a hold of. And you know why? Because you're busy in your fight for this country and for our freedom and for the future of my kids. And for that, I am forever grateful.
Thank you for all you do.
Absolutely. Coming up in the second half, we have Joe the Cop. Joe the Cop coming up. Force Matrix Friday here on PC Radio. Do not go anywhere.
We will force votes.
We will not stop.
Any Republican senator is part of the cover-up.
What the f***?
Impeachment.
This is madness.
The PC Radio Show with Stu and Rich. Back in a minute.
Hey, it's Stu Peters and Richard Leonard for Adjust Today Chiropractic. Now, I want you to take a look at this. This is the website for Adjust Today Chiropractic, which obviously is at adjusttodaychiropractic.com. Dr. Dustin Ducart says you're in good hands. He believes everyone has a chance to experience the benefits of chiropractic care. He'd love to find out how to skillfully take care of you and your spine, and that can be done even on Saturdays. He makes himself available on Saturdays. And Richard, you know how important it is to be properly aligned.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's no secret that proper alignment is good for you, not only in just an everyday health aspect, but also, I mean, it can help things that you don't even know that it helps. Now, Dr. Dustin Ducart does specialize in like athletic pain and things like that, but also, I mean, chiropractic care can help with allergies, migraines, all kinds of stuff. Visit him today, adjusttodaychiropractic.com, adjusttodaychiropractic.com. That's adjusttodaychiropractic.com.
The enemy of progressive politicians and politically correct assholes. PC Radio. Worldwide at thepcradioshow.com.
Gonna wait for these affiliates to come in here. Here they come. Welcome to PC Radio. My name is Stu Peters. That's Richard Leonard. Joining us here for Force Matrix Friday is Joe the Cop. He is a 24-year law enforcement veteran. He currently works on the streets of America as a police officer, somewhere in an undisclosed location, but also in some place where shit is really hitting the fan. Richard was telling me a story, reading a news story or breaking some news during the break here that I think it was, what was it, today or yesterday, something like that. City
26
Council,
minutes ago.
26 minutes ago. So City Council has released news that they narrowly approved a $500,000 stipend or surplus or budget to go towards outside agencies to assist the Minneapolis Police Department in dealing with the rising crime. Boy, Joe, it's a real shock, isn't it, that crime is rising in Minneapolis?
I don't understand. I'm at a total loss here, Stu. I don't know. I didn't understand that. How maybe basically saying that your officers aren't allowed to do anything, how giving up police stations to be burned. I don't understand how that could result in more crime.
Yeah, it's really mind-boggling.
Right.
Listen, there's been many instances in where the police have literally bowed down, like you predicted on this show. They have literally bowed down in the streets to radical terroristic groups of thugs and criminals while they allow these autonomous zones to be set up and, like you said, precincts to burn in some cases while police officers were actually inside of their homes away from home, their police house with their partners. And they would rather bury dead cops than bury dead criminal thugs. Instead, we prop them up as martyrs and we memorialize them. It should be no surprise to anybody in the city of Minneapolis that this is happening. And if you voted for this leadership, if you voted for these elected representatives, you're getting exactly what you deserve. The problem, Joe, is what about the people who didn't vote for this and are falling victim to these new policies by weak police command staffs that are allowing them no police response and allowing them to be victimized by these groups of people? To them, what do you say?
What I would say is, why didn't you speak up when this was happening? Okay. Why weren't you the vocal minority? Because it seems to me that the vocal minority in this country is what gets results. So why didn't you speak up then? And last I checked, Minnesota has some pretty liberal gun laws, meaning that, they got their Second Amendment is pretty secure. Buy guns, arm yourselves, be ready for suburban warfare, because that's exactly what's coming here. When cops kneeled for that dead career criminal home invader named George Floyd, this set off a chain reaction across the country. Far worse than anything that happened in Ferguson, because with Ferguson, the police didn't surrender. Now they've just surrendered. They are all but useless now, Stu, on a larger scale.
And to no fault of the street cop. We just want to be clear about that. We understand that there are still good, dedicated cops out there that want to go do their job, but they're handcuffed. And their weak command staffs will not allow them to go out and arrest anybody.
Well, and those are the cops. I'm still to this day, I've said it many times. I'm super surprised that they still are showing up for work. Just knowing the adversity, they know. I think these cops know every day when they come to work that somebody's going to call them, some name other than what their mama gave them, and harass them and all kinds of shit. It's crazy. It's crazy, and I commend all of them.
So the 500,000 has been passed here in Minneapolis, and now it sounds like other agencies will be coming into the city of Minneapolis to support law enforcement here. Be people like probably the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office. I'm sure that there were others on that list. I'm sure the Transit Police Department is going to step up their enforcement action there. Maybe the University of Minnesota, although the UMPD Police Department here has vacated and run away from Minneapolis. And that's going on all over the country because Minneapolis or these democratically controlled large cities, they kind of follow each other, don't they, Joe? I mean, when Minneapolis sets a precedent that, hey, we're going to allow this to burn, and then look at what happened out in Portland and Seattle and Los Angeles and all of these other cities. Philadelphia is we saw a large group of police officers physically, literally running away from criminals. It's unbelievable.
But what's to say that they have the manpower?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they're police officers, Richard. They're cops. They don't have the manpower, but it's their job to stand there and fight criminals. Is it not, Joe?
Well, they have the manpower.
Of course it is.
The Minneapolis Police Department had enough officers to fix this problem early on. The Philadelphia Police Department, which is a really tough police department back in the day, certainly has the numbers to fix it. But the problem is they're listening to maybe 5 people in charge who are telling them to run away. At some point, all right, I mean, if they have any sense of self-preservation, and it's easy for me to say, okay, I can go to work. I don't have bosses that tell me don't go arrest anyone. I don't have to deal with that. All right, I am generally supported by my bosses. I get along with my bosses. I don't have any real gripes with them. All right, so it's easy for me to say this being in, I guess you could say, the position I'm in. I guess you could say it's a rather privileged position of being able to, a police officer being able to, gosh, police. Who would have guessed that? The problem is, and here's what's going to become necessary, and I'll say it again, it's easy for me to say this, mutiny, Stu. That's the only thing that's going to fix this. Saying, we're going to go out and do it, and what are you going to do about it? There's 1,000 of us and 5 of you. What are you going to do about it?
It's got to be sacrificial lambs.
Well, I mean, they're so easily intimidated by these thugs, right? Maybe they'd be intimidated by 1,000 cops. Think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost what's going to happen in these situations. Either that or leave the agency, which, again, is easy for me to say because a lot of these people have bills. They have families and everything like that. But, again, hey, listen, I still need my job, pay the bills. I'm not at the point yet where I can just walk away and just say, okay, now I don't have to work again. That day is coming in the future, but right now I'm still, paying a mortgage and everything. But if it comes to the point where you tell me, hey, I want you to kneel. Hey, I want you not to make arrests. Hey, I want you to block traffic so they can come and demonstrate or riot or whatever you want to call it, and then harass law-abiding citizens. Guess what? I'll walk away at that point. No paycheck is worth my values. But listen, that's me. I haven't been put in that position. Hopefully not, because I'd walk away. It's just not. It's not acceptable to me. When you sign up to be a police officer, you're a police officer. If you tell me I have to do something other than be a police officer, I'm not going to do it.
You know,
it's going to come to you're going to need it.
You predicted on this program that Joe Biden was going to win the presidency. You still feel that way?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything there that would change my mind, unfortunately. It looks like it's going through, but I mean, there are some upsides. We've made some critical House gains, and it looks like we're going to keep the Senate, and we do have a conservative majority on the Supreme Court. I think that a lot of these progressives and the Democrats have turned people away, and even the Democrats are saying, look, we're like, cutting our own throats here with this. So I think, some people are waking up.
Yeah.
It's not enough.
They're vowing to come after your guns. They're vowing to dismantle your police department. They're vowing to defund this and get rid of that. They're vowing to shut down your right to speak, and you can only assemble if you're burning something down, but you can't talk to your neighbor without a mask on. And that leads me to the next question. You were talking about these mask mandates at the beginning of the show. It's going to be a cold and dark winter where you're going to be required to wear masks nationwide. Are cops going to, are they going to enforce this thing or what?
Well, if you read this article, which is basically quoting what Biden wants to do, the way he's saying it is he's going to reach out to the governors, and if that doesn't work, because he's not going to really get anywhere with too many Republican governors, he's going to then try to go to the mayors of these cities and stuff like that. Read between the lines on that, Stu. That basically tells me he knows he wouldn't have to vote to pass a federal law on this. You wouldn't be able to get this through. In most cases, you would have to pass it through both chambers, and then he'd have to sign off on it. He would sign off on it if it would pass, but he's saying that tells me that he knows he doesn't have the juice to get that passed. And who is going to enforce this?
Right. That's the question.
You are, Joe.
Well, no, I'm not, because here we go again with this. What are you going to do? You would have to have the mayors, obviously, in cities and small towns, can pass what is known as a ordinance, a municipal law. In my state, it's a summary offense. It's the functional equivalent of a traffic citation or a disorderly conduct citation. But what am I going to do? We already have, policies in these stores that say you have to wear a mask to come in to the store to shop. In this place of business to shop, or we will deny you service. Now, they can do that because they have the right to refuse service. Not wearing a mask is not the law. The law is, okay, you're not wearing a mask, you have to put one on or leave. No, I won't leave. Now you're in defiant trespass. So that's a crime. But not the issue of not wearing a mask is not a crime. So how do we enforce this? Well, one, you would need mayors to pass this across the towns. Most of the residents are not going to be okay with that. Here's the thing. If I have to wear one, I'm going to business. Where else am I going to wear one? When I'm out walking a dog? No, that's not going to happen. We're not going to enforce. I'm not going to enforce this.
Well, that fresh air will kill you, Joe.
I made a prediction. That they were going to limit you from traveling, that they were going to stop you from getting on a plane, that they were going to, if you didn't get the vaccination that's going to come out here in a few weeks, that they're going to stop you from, flying Sun Country Airlines or Delta Airlines, and these independent companies can make you do that. And so it's not just with the vaccination, it's with the masks too. And I know several people who have said, you know what, I'm a never masker, and they've actually held on to that. I don't like wearing them, but I will. I'll wear one to go into the bank because obviously it's fun, especially when you're at work. I never predicted that there'd be an acceptable time in my lifetime where I could go into a bank wearing a gun and a mask, but and then ask for money. But also going into these convenience stores and things like that. Listen, it's just not worth the fight. So I'm kind of in a sense of the way up here preaching from my soapbox of no, stand up and never give up and always fight. But then yet again, here I am throwing on my mask. And so we're basically being funneled into this acceptance agreement as Americans. That first it's the mask, and then it's the well, you got to stay away from your grandma and your mom in the nursing home, and then you can't go within 6 feet of your friends, and now it's 10 feet, and you can't gather in crowds more than this or that, and you can't go here, and that sporting event is shut down, and this restaurant can only have 25 people in it, and this bar can't serve. It's a gradual takeover, because what they're doing is they're manipulating by saying, well, if they're willing to accept the masks, let's see how far we can push them in their quest for a totalitarian takeover.
I agree with that. And here's the thing. Let me clarify. I am what you would call a masker. Okay, I don't believe in taking unnecessary risk. I do wear my mask. I wear my mask in the station, and I do wear my mask when I'm answering calls. However, and I've gone on calls where people have said to me, "Oh, you need me to put my mask on," and I've said, "No, sir," or "No, ma'am." That is entirely your choice. I don't require anyone to wear a mask. There's no law that requires you to wear a mask in my state. My idiot governor would happily sign off on that, but he does not have control of the House and the Senate in this state. Okay, so because it's Republican control, it wouldn't fly. Let's try this. How about a little scenario here? Okay, now let's say that you're a police officer. Right?
Yeah.
And you get a call about a man walking his dog, and he's not wearing a mask. If you had an ordinance in your town, let's say you're in Anywhere USA, you had an ordinance in your town for a man walking a dog without wearing a mask, and that's the newly imposed ordinance. Okay, and you go there, black man. Let's just say it's a black man. Now you walk up to him and you say, "Sir, you don't have a mask on, and you're walking the dog." As would his constitutional right as a white, black, or Eskimo man not to wear a mask as he's walking his dog, and say, "I need you to identify yourself to me, okay, so I can issue an ordinance violation, a summons, okay, or citation, whatever you want to call it." And he says no. Well, what do you do then? See, now you're in a point where you can't issue a citation if you don't know the person you're dealing with. So what's the next step? You would have to make a physical arrest, wouldn't you? And then at that point, he's probably going to pull away in confusion or just like exasperation or whatever. And then you're going to take him to the ground and arrest him. When the inevitable cell phone video footage shows up later on, do you think that your chief in Anywhere USA, your mayor, your council, and your district attorney are going to have your back for enforcing this ordinance?
No, the ending to that is inevitable. Yeah. You're absolutely going to be thrown to the wolves. You're going to be thrown right under the bus.
Right. Will Joe Biden stand in the White House, okay, at his podium and say that he supports this? When Joe Biden, okay, has played the race card, okay, has basically he would call you out. He would not support you for this, even though he's the one that wants this. Joe Biden won't do it. He'll give another soft speech, okay, about systemic racism, okay, and how blacks are treated disproportionately, even though he was the one that authored a crime bill when he was senator.
Put him in jail.
That resulted in black incarceration. So this has nothing to do with Donald Trump, Stu. I'm sorry, this has nothing to do with the safety or anything like that. This is all about Joe Biden taking a shot at Donald Trump. That's exactly what this is.
And it's never going to stop. That's what they've been doing since the beginning of this. And it's not Joe Biden even that's taking the shot because he's not smart enough to take the shot. This is the progressive radicals that controlled Joe Biden firing warning shots over the bow of Donald Trump. And I think what it's saying basically is, listen, the assault on you is not done. We're going to pull out every single stop that we have, not only now, but in the future. So if you're considering a run for 2024, you formerly impeached orange racist, don't even consider it. And they are weaponizing the police in America. I wrote an article about it. It was published in the OpsLens network as well as the Law Enforcement News Network. And it was weaponizing the police, politicizing the police. And then at the same time that you're weaponizing them against your citizens by threatening the defunding of them and the total eradication of the police protection that you're supposed to be afforded by the Constitution, they are then taking them and putting them on their own blocks. And we've talked about it in the show ad nauseum. The hypocrisy is right out there in front of everybody. It's absolutely amazing to anybody who desires to have a safe place to raise their children or to go out in public or to go shopping or to attend a sporting event cannot even depend on the safety and the protection that is supposed to be provided to them by the fundamental basics that we rely on, like the damn police. They're literally running away in Philadelphia, and that's only there now. That's the only one that we've seen so far. But just like Philadelphia, just like Baltimore, just like Detroit, just like Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle, all of these cities that started bowing in front of these people, which started here in Minneapolis after that criminal home invading thug died. They're going to follow suit. It's only a matter of time before the police are running from criminals everywhere.
Well, and this may be a segue into private police forces. Not that the police are going to be defunded, but look at Minneapolis, for example. Cops are retiring. Cops are moving to different departments, to different states. They're quitting. They're taking up other jobs. I think, Stu, we know one or two guys that just said, screw it. And they quit after they got 9-10 years on the job, and they went and became teachers or worked in a factory or something, because anything was better than what they were dealing with. And so now Minneapolis has $500,000 in which to bring in outside officers,
which, by the way, is nothing. I mean, it's such a nothing amount.
Yeah. Well, that's my question. How many officers are you going to get to work, and for how long does $500,000 get you?
It's
and
all
that's
for
even
optics.
To say if those agencies, does Hennepin County Sheriff's Office and does the Metro Transit Police Department have enough manpower to go, okay, Minneapolis, here's 10 cops for a month.
And where is their funding coming from, and why haven't they demanded that those departments be eradicated and defunded and disbanded? I mean, it's so silly, Joe.
Well, here's one thing I want to say to this. These agencies, these outside agencies, should refuse to go into Minneapolis. They have enough of their own problems to deal with. I will say, of all the cities you named, Detroit police aren't kneeling. They've got the rioters on the run. They got a pretty good chief there. James Craig is proactive.
Yeah,
and he says that we don't take their shit. I want to point out, Stu, for many years of my career, I was your black and white, okay, the law's the law type of officer. I was like that for many years. But the more that I see liberals running the government, the more I see how liberals want law selectively applied to normal people and not actual criminals, the more I realize that there is a fine line between me, quote unquote, just doing my job, and totalitarianism. And I don't want any part of that. This whole thing about you don't want me to arrest felons who are selling drugs because of skin tone, but you want me to hassle a person of any color walking a dog without a mask or standing in a group of 12? It's not going to happen. This is just not how it's going to be. Not with me. Yeah. Now, I don't know about other cops, but if that's the way they're doing it, then they're no longer police officers at that point. They become conspirators.
Yeah.
Stu.
I know. And we've seen on multiple occasions and actually been told by officers, do you really think, and I know this to be true, and I don't blame them one bit, do you really think that I'm going to jump out on that black guy that I know has a gun, and I know that he's a felon, and I know that he doesn't have a permit, and I know this because I've personally dealt with him before. I know that he's a gangbanger, and he belongs to this game, and he lives on this block, and this is his baby mama, and this is his street name, and I know everything about him. Do you think I'm really going to jump out on that guy? Absolutely not. I'm not going to jump out on that guy. And who's really suffering here? Who's really suffering? Is it me, white America guy, who has a low budget afternoon radio program, and I go out and I do my bounty hunting thing and I just provide a living for my family? I mean, am I really the guy that's suffering living in the suburbs? No, not yet, not right now, but it'll spread there. Right. But who's really suffering here? It's the black community that these people say that they're for.
Yes, ironically, okay. We've seen this over and over again. And I'm not going to paint this with a broad brush, because in my experiences in dealing with the black community, many of them do want the police.
Yeah.
They're afraid to speak
absolutely.
up. But ironically, the same black community that will, castigate the police for doing their job, and I'll just say this in general, okay, not as a whole, just so we understand, because like I said, I've dealt with many black people who want the police, and they are appreciative of us. You would think actually, that the older black folks are against the police because they've actually suffered racism and discrimination. I found the opposite to be true. They're usually the most grateful for us. But the black community that castigates the police is the same black community that suffers because the police stopped doing their jobs because of the epidemic of black on black homicides.
And the same cop that won't jump out on the confirmed gangbanger with a gun is the same cop that'll jump out on somebody for not wearing a mask. because
Let's hope
that
not.
because that has become the new normal that we're supposed to accept. Okay.
Well, that's what's
it's
going
a
to happen with
serious
law
crime.
enforcement in the future.
Yeah.
In the future, that is what's going to happen with law enforcement. You will get that. You will get look what they're hiring right now. They're hiring people who are afraid of confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
When I was getting hired 24 years ago, you couldn't be afraid of confrontation.
Yeah.
You couldn't be. You couldn't look like a guy that couldn't take a punch. They made you take a punch in the academy. Now they don't even want you to get hit. This is the wrong profession to find out if you could take a punch if you never took one before.
And that's when they send you to de-escalation classes, and they give you fun little bowl of wraps and tasers that are less than effective, and they tell you that the less lethal thing or the best thing to do is actually to just walk away. You know, let's all take hold on a second. Let's all take let's all take 10 deep breaths. You know what? I'll tell you what. Why don't we come back tomorrow and we'll talk about this? But listen, Tyrone. Listen, Tyrone, you can't do this kind of stuff anymore because this is naughty, okay? And this is illegal. I'm giving you a warning right now that carrying that gun and whipping that woman over the head with it and taking her purse is not going to be tolerated in the future. And we're going to have to talk about this. We're going to have a serious talk.
Yeah.
Yes, that is all part of the indoctrination, Stu. That is part of the liberal indoctrination that these chiefs have allowed the AOCs, okay, the Elon Omars, the Rashida Tlaibs, they've allowed them to infect their department with this liberalism, okay, with this progressivism. These are chiefs that haven't even met these people. And they're listening to their messages. They're bowing down. Look what happened after George Floyd. Look at these chiefs that said, this won't ever happen. It was a chief in Arkansas, some idiot. This won't happen when I'm chief. Nobody will die in my custody or something to that effect. You can't give a promise as chief that no prisoner will ever die in your custody.
Just rolled over for him.
Look what you put yourself into at that point when you've said that.
Yeah, because when it happens, now what? Now what do you do?
Right.
So you've basically
You can't
just
give a
sentenced
promise
everybody
to
that works for you. You've sentenced them to no work. You can't do any work because if you do any work at all, there is a likelihood, not a likelihood, but there is a chance that will happen. So basically what he has said is we're just never going to have anybody in our custody anymore because then you eliminate the possibility of somebody dying in your custody.
You put yourself in the back. You put your back against the wall, Stu. Okay, when you go to civil court with something like that. As a chief, you cannot promise anyone that your officers won't shoot anyone. What the police do is in direct response to the action of others. That's 98% of law enforcement, Stu. So you can't make that statement. So when you get up there and talk less lethal weapons, your Ebola rap or whatever it's called, okay, and all that garbage, and this pepper gun or whatever, this silliness. Okay, you've created false expectations with the public. The police have guns for a reason, and those guns are to be used when a suspect is holding a knife or coming at them with a baseball bat, okay, or swinging an axe at them. Those are not meant for. Those are not less lethal situations. Those are deadly force situations. And by the chiefs talking, well, we have the option of using the taser. Yes, you have the option, but you are brain dead if you try.
Make no mistake.
Your brains will be coming out your ears if you try.
They're trying to take guns away from cops. I mean, we've heard about that too. Let's disarm the police. Let's take their guns away from them. They do it in London. Why can't we do it here?
There'll be no cops if they take their guns away.
There's no point in having the police if you do that here. There's really no point in having them now, Stu, if you think about it.
Well, I said on the show the other day that, there were police running away from people and, there's a lot of people here that have the sense of, when that happens, I mean, obviously the military will take care of us. The Minnesota National Guard will come in. We will never allow things to get so out of control. The governor would never do that. But then
the National Guard with the empty gun?
Yeah, and then two dudes on a frickin' blue moped send U.S. Army soldiers into full retreat mode. They're not there. And there's a time that the police there's a time that the police are going to run away, and the time is now. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. We're all getting a little worked up here. Just think about the National Guard for a minute. The National Guard serves at the pleasure of the governor. Look at your governor. He's an idiot.
Yeah,
he's
totally
a liberal,
idiot.
weak idiot.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not going to load their guns unless they're giving the order to. You think Tim Walz is going to give the order for that? Of course he's not.
No, he's not.
They don't even carry ammo, Joe.
They're just cooks. That's what he said. That's what Tim Walz said about these soldiers. They're just cooks. They don't even carry ammunition.
Not to denigrate them. They do an important job, but this is not their job. Street policing is not their job. It's window dressing. And I've seen it time and again in these things. No, and these street thugs are getting smarted. Those guns aren't loaded. You hear them say it in these videos. The police have loaded guns, though, don't they?
Yeah, the likelihood that they'll use them. Yeah, they won't use them. And when they do, their lives are over forever. So it's obvious that this thing is not going to get any better, and that it's only going to get worse, and that any feeling of optimism is basically debunked by facts and statistics and the motion of America. And so the optimism that the police are going to eventually turn things around and be there for you can only be had in an environment where we have leadership that believes in a free America and the rule of law and order in our communities. And right now, sadly, we do not have that. And so it's only going to continue to deteriorate, especially if Joe Biden is inaugurated. It always goes way too fast having you on here, Joe. We appreciate you being here, though. Joe the Cop, 24-year police veteran and still a currently working cop in America. We appreciate your service, Joe.
Thank you.
All right. There's Joe the Cop, and we'll see him again next Friday. Richard, your final words on this Friday afternoon.
Well, thanks for joining us, and come back Monday. We'll continue to try to solve the nation's problems.
Until Monday at 5 o'clock Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. Here's what's up to it. Here's what's down to it. Here's to any way you can get to it. Here's to those that don't do it. May they be dragged to it, tied to it, or forced to it. And here's to us who do it, because we're the ones that's used to it. Remember to fly low and avoid the radar. One day they're going to come for the car, and when they do, save the radio!